So Horizon started after a conversation with a cameraman colleague of mine, Matt Norman. We were chatting on a job one day and we were looking for things that we could work on together. And the idea of a web series came up, and whether we were going to do zombies or science fiction, and we were trying to find what genre it could be. Which is then when I took it to Chris and Si and said to these guys, would they be interested in developing it further and what could we do with it?
It was an exciting idea because we've done sort of short films and stuff before, but the idea of telling a story over a long period of time, like we're big fans of TV shows, like 24, Last Walking Dead, where obviously they get to do that, and we've always said, wouldn't it be great to kind of follow a set of characters over that period of time, have things like cliffhangers, so when you came with that idea, it was like, oh my god, this is our chance to do that. So yeah, we were really excited to get involved.
One of the key things as well is that we were doing something where it wasn't just one single short film, and I haven't really had the chance to explore something where we could do things like cliffhangers. So having something that kind of continued on and something that we could develop, have cliffhangers, have a bit of development going through, and then eventually have that discussion of how we're going to end something like this, I think was the interesting point for us.
Initially, we had, in this room actually, we just had a lot of early meetings where we talked about the kind of things that we would want to have happen. So Paul had some very specific ideas already when he first came to us, and then it was just about us tossing ideas around, like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if this happened at one point and this happened? And we already had a rough idea when we started of the kind of actors we'd want to have involved and maybe some of the locations because we'd shot there before. The idea of opening with a car crash was something that Paul had already thought of. So it was basically about working out from there and then thinking, okay, maybe there's an episode where there's some looting happening in a shop, and basically we had like a big checklist of things and it was about working them into some sort of story and then what happens when, really.
Some of the ideas were quite ambitious at the start, and I think we didn't always know whether we were going to pull them off. If we have, you'll be the judge of that, so we'll see.
Well, because the other thing was budget, wasn't it? Like, obviously we knew that we probably weren't going to make it for that much money. It was just going to be, whatever perhaps we were able to put in, but otherwise it was just going to be calling in a lot of favours. So yeah, at the same time we decided, let's tackle this potentially alien invasion story, or at least a story of a spaceship over Bristol, which immediately lends itself to a lot of big budget ideas. So it was about how to tell that story in a relatively contained way, but at the same time not have it be anticlimactic, like, they're blatantly doing this with no money and trying to find a way around that,
I mean, I think as a producer on the show, you kind of have got one eye on the budget and one eye thinking, what can we do this, how can we do this, and also what works for the story. So you don't want to limit yourself too much, going, that's too big, we'll have to do this, we'll have to do that, and you end up walking down this kind of a narrow road. I don't think we wanted to limit ourselves too much, and I think we wanted to try and aim for that, the ambitious storytelling, really, if we could.
We had Independence Day ideas and Bonfire Night budget.
Yeah.
I like that. Say it again. Okay. So episode 1 was an interesting episode to write. It was the setup for the whole show. We introduced all these characters, and one of the things I really wanted to do was kind of hit the ground running. So we're in the middle of this car accident. I'd shot a music video a couple of years before we shot Horizon, where we filmed on a road, which is a disused road in Bristol, where we staged a car accident. I thought it would be great to do something, but with it in a dramatic sense, in a dramatic purpose.
Yeah, so interestingly, episode 1 wasn't actually the first one we shot. We didn't shoot in order. It was just a case of when our actors and locations available. So I think episode 7 was actually the first one, then 1 wasn't the third or fourth. And the other thing as well is that we had different crews available on each day. Basically, the show itself was shot in January because that's kind of a quiet time in the industry, so we knew people would be able to help out. They wouldn't necessarily have other work commitments. But it did just mean we had to sort of make do with who was available. And I think episode 1, despite being one of the most hectic episodes, was probably when we had the smallest amount of crew.
Yeah.
I think I shot some stuff.
Yeah.
You shot some stuff. So yeah, it was a bit of a struggle, and it was we were fighting the light as well, because of course January you got the shortest days of the year, so it was getting dark pretty quickly.
Logistically, episode 1 was quite a number for the fact that we had to film on this road, that took a lot of negotiations with the council, and then we had to speak to local car breakers and actually get 2 broken cars there, shipped to the location, turn them over, break them into and put them into position, clear away any glass. We had some breakaway glass, which was special effects glass, to put on the road so no one got cut. We had sort of 20-30 extras in their cars to sort of stage this car accident. So, and like Simon said, because we shot in January, we were losing the light. So by the time we arrived early morning when it was dark, and we started shooting at about sort of 9, and we had to wrap for about 4:30, 5, and then we still had scenes inside the car at that point. So when we lost the light, we actually had to go back about I think it was like 2 months later, and we turned over a different car. and stuck a green screen out the back to shoot Simon's interiors of Simon's character Dan upside down, and we just stuck a green screen out the back, and then went back to the original location we shot on and filmed on the ground, just looking out, and shot what they call a background plate. And just basically when we keyed out, we got rid of the green screen, we put that background in, and hopefully it's kind of seamless that it cuts in with the conversation. So when Stephen, the Tompkins character, starts talking from the back seat, we're in January in a certain car on location, and then when Simon answers the question, it's 2 months later in a different car yard. So hopefully when you cut the two together and you lay some sound over the top, no one will know.
Dan? Can you hear me, Dan? I'm here. What's happened? Still trying to work that out.
So hopefully, obviously, the viewers are tuning in. They know the show's about an alien ship at some point, but we don't see it until the very end. But we just introduced all these characters and the manic goings on, and kind of we established that they've just come from a funeral. We don't know who yet, and so we're kind of laying the foundations for all these things. And then the rest of the show from episode 2, the rest of the series from episode 2 onwards is kind of going to answer hopefully all those questions that have been set up in episode 1.